Welcome to the Great Basin Smoke Dispersion Briefing for Friday, March 23rd. This is Gina McGuire. Over the last 2 weeks, we've seen significant precipitation, especially affect parts of the Sierra into western and northern Nevada and up into Idaho, where these areas have been above normal with regard to precipitation over the last 2 weeks, and in some areas of the west, well above normal. Other areas of the Great Basin have seen at least some measurable precipitation, but has largely been below normal with the exception of parts of the Arizona Strip into southern Nevada and some of the higher terrain of Utah. And some of this precipitation that has occurred over the last week or so has compacted the fuels. We've seen snowpack increase significantly to above 50 or 60% of normal in the Sierra and across parts of Nevada and northern Utah. This snowfall that has occurred in the lower elevations of western Nevada has even compacted some of the grasses in the lower elevations as the snow remained on the ground for several days. Other areas, again, have seen new snowfall in the last 72 hours in the image on the left, and the snowpack, again, remains highest and near to just above normal across the central Idaho mountains into Wyoming, and again, still 50 to 60% or so of normal further south. The satellite loop from Friday morning shows a cold area of low pressure off the northwest coast, which will continue moving eastward, and this is pushing now precipitation over the eastern half of the Great Basin today, and it will push this precipitation east of the area as we move through the next 24 hours. However, we will still see some systems affect the Great Basin through the weekend and into early next week, bringing some areas of precipitation, which we will see in future slides. Looking at the weather pattern for later today, you can see this area of low pressure moving into the northwest, and it will push some drier conditions across the Great Basin, but also some breezy winds out ahead of this area of low pressure. We will continue to see showers this morning over the eastern half of the area, but drier air will work its way in from the west. With these gustier winds, dispersion will remain quite good region-wide. Looking at the transport winds, the image on the left, and you can see these gusty winds, nothing overly strong, but we will see gusts between 35 and 40 or 45 miles per hour along the Sierra front into northern Nevada and over parts of eastern Utah and parts of Idaho. And the mixing heights will remain also high region-wide. As we move into tomorrow, this area of low pressure moves into western Oregon, and it will continue with breezy winds across the Great Basin, also showers mainly focused in the north with cool temperatures below normal. Therefore, dispersion, once again, with this low still moving in, will remain quite good. Again, the gusty winds on Saturday will continue with the strongest winds on Saturday now over southern and eastern areas of the Great Basin, with south-southwest winds gusting again between 40 and 45 miles per hour. Mixing heights, once again, will remain high region-wide through the weekend. As we move into Sunday, this trough of low pressure now starts to move into the Great Basin, and it will push some shower activity over northern and eastern areas with drier conditions in the south, and still some breezy winds keeping dispersion good. Looking at the gusty winds, we'll see generally southwest winds strongest over eastern and southern Utah, but much weaker than what we will see on Saturday. Breezy northwest winds will continue across really the rest of the Great Basin, and again, this will keep mixing heights high, and this will also keep dispersion good. Looking at the forecast clearing index for Utah, again with these gusty winds and high ventilation indices, it would be expected that the clearing indices would also be high region-wide, and that will be the case. The only exception is clearing indices will be a little bit lower over the western half of Utah today until those winds really start to pick up. Looking at the overall forecast amount of precipitation over the next few days, as the system moves through, again, the precipitation will be targeted over the northern and eastern half of the Great Basin, with the heaviest amounts over the Utah mountains up into Wyoming and also into the central and northern Sierra. As this area of low pressure moves through the Great Basin through the weekend, we'll see showers on Sunday across parts of the Great Basin, and by Monday they will move into the southern and eastern half of the area, with drier conditions starting to move across California into far western areas of the Great Basin. Dispersion will still remain relatively good region-wide. As we move into Tuesday, this trough moves eastward with an area of low pressure now developing across Arizona, and this will bring more north to northeast flow across the Great Basin with drier conditions, with the exception of the far north where showers still can move across Idaho. We'll also see some lighter wind flow, with dispersion starting to decrease into the Sierra and into western Nevada and western Idaho. By Wednesday, we see generally northerly flow as this trough of low pressure now moves into the Rockies, with drier conditions across the area and some lower areas of ventilation indices over the far west, but otherwise fairly good dispersion. As we move into Thursday, winds start to lighten up. We see drier and warmer conditions emerge. These below normal temperatures we've been seeing will transition as we move into next week to above normal temperatures with drier conditions across the area. Looking at the forecast amount of precipitation for Monday through Wednesday morning, only light amounts over northern and eastern areas of the Great Basin with drier conditions across Nevada. As we look at the 8 to 14 day outlook, which takes us into the end of March and the first week of April, we have been seeing this wetter, cooler pattern move across the Great Basin over the last few weeks, and that pattern looks to be changing as we move into the end of the month into the first part of April, with drier and warmer conditions starting to take shape over the west. That concludes our briefing for today. Check back on Monday for the latest updates.